Check, check. Check, check. Anybody hear me? Check, check. Check the microphone. Can you hear me? Check, check. Can you hear her though? Oh, thank you, Jordan. I love that because that's something that we can all do. We can all pick up trash, you know? And so uh I feel like that's so important for people to recognize that it's the small things that we can do individually that make a big difference. And if we could all just appreciate our surroundings more like that, you know, I feel like that's the best part of it all. And thankfully, if we stop and think about our own consumption, how much plastic we consume, and then consciously make an effort to look for alternatives to that, that in itself stops the creation of the trash where it's at. Um, and not to mention, like, not being too egotistical to pick up trash when you see it. I noticed a lot of people have a problem with wanting to get their hands dirty, or excuse me, not wanting to get their hands dirty or feeling like they're above that or somebody else will do that. When I visit other countries, there's no trash anywhere because there's a sense of pride in the environment of where they are. I wish more Americans would do that. I wish more Americans would not have so much ego about picking up trash because it's such a simple thing to do and so many other people do it all over the world. We should be able to do that too. So that said, uh, I see we have some more speakers coming in, and I would love to bring them up. Um, I'm having a couple of issues on my Twitch, so I would love to have Jordan while she's up here and we're bringing up more speakers. If Jordan, if you could talk about your piece, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Spatial and find it, and then we'll be able to see it on Twitch with us. And I'm gonna try to figure out why the audio is not coming in for some reason. The audio seems to be not working on my, which is so funny because I've spent like 2 weeks testing out all of my Twitch and all of my different settings. So it's so funny that like now suddenly um, it's not working conveniently. I think that's Murphy's Law. I think that's what they say. But I would love to go into Spatial, which I'm going to do next, and then have Jordan talk about your piece, kind of tell us about where you went. Well, you don't have to give us the location, but you know what I mean, like your whole idea and your thought process behind it, because that sacred connection piece is so moving to me. And it was so spicy. I had to be careful with IG, and I had to be like kind of thoughtful with like the editing of it because it's such a spicy, beautiful, sacred connection. So I really love that. So I'm gonna go into it now, and I'd love to hear you talk about it, Jordan, and then we'll go over to One Rad Latina. And to all of the artists that are in the room, if you can't speak, don't worry. I'm gonna speak about you. I have a whole schedule of each artist. So if you're at work or you can't speak right now, don't worry. I'm gonna refer to you and make sure that I'm able to pull up your art as well and talk about you on your behalf. So that said, Jordan, please tell us about Sacred Connections while I go into Spatial and we can check out the piece together. Oh, really? No. Wait a second. Wow. I'm gonna bring this. I'm gonna be right back. See if this helps. Okay. Can't hear the space, huh? But you can hear me. You can't hear the space, but you can hear me. Yes, me too. Gotta like just roll with it. It's like it isn't complicated enough. We loaded? Yes, we loaded. Yay, we're loaded. Okay. Alright. Yes, girl. Girl. Marilyn, let me go closer. Thank you, Jesus. Okay. Okay. It's like oh, I can't hear now. Oh, I can't hear now, but I'm gonna give her a heart. Okay. I feel like what I gotta do is restart. I gotta end this stream. Oh my gosh, I can't hear. Oh, it rugged for me. Hi, love. It rugged for me. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me right now? Okay. Okay, cool. Because it was rugging at the end. It's a little windy weather down here today. We're supposed to have some rain, and it's so funny that whenever there's wind or rain, that the internet is always like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be choppy," but it's funny. Like, we just kind of have to roll with the punches, and I'm trying to be able to get them to hear your audio right now on Twitch. For some reason, they can only hear me, so I'm trying to make it so that they can hear you as well. So if there's a little bit of a delay here, that's why. And then give Twitch or give Twitter the rugging, and then I'm like, oh man, now I'm totally lost. Now I don't even know like where we are even in the story. But it's not as if this wasn't complicated enough. So that said, uh, I'm so glad that we were able to hear it, and I definitely have it up pulled up on the side. The piece is gorgeous, and I'm so proud to have it be a part of the gallery here. And before I forget, before we go any further, I feel like I need to acknowledge this. Happy Black History Month to all of our black artists in the Web3 space, creators, founders, like everybody who's out there doing the thing. This is still Black History Month, and I feel like there hasn't been enough acknowledgement to that and to all of our black creatives. So I just want to say to everyone out there, I got my Africa hoodie on actually from One Rhythm of the Village, which is a black owned business that if you like what I'm wearing, you can go and support them and get one too from them. And yeah, I just want to give acknowledgement to Africa in general and Black History Month. And that said, that would be such a great segue if we could go into One Rad Latina's piece, which is called The New Eve. And what I can do in spatial is walk over to your piece, and then we could talk about yours, and get into your introduction as well, if you don't mind. So, how are you doing, One Rad? And thank you for being a part of the gallery, and thank you for amplifying and just being like the energy that you are. Like you're the type of artist. Like that's how I would describe you, you know? So I really am just so proud to have you be a part of the gallery, and thank you for being here. And how are you doing, love?
Hi, can you guys hear me? Because I got so bugged that it was like I got thrown out of the room. So I just want to make sure people can hear me.
I can hear you perfectly.
Awesome. Just want to make sure. So hi, how's everyone doing? Thank you so much for having me in the show as well. I'm actually in my kitchen right now about to cook, so I'm not looking at the gallery, but I had already like taken the tour, which is so cool. I love technology now. Um, I don't know what much to say about the piece because I named it New Eve because I've always believed that the very first woman and I always imagine like Eve was black. So I don't know. It's just something about nature being closer to that. Is I don't want to get too into it because then I'll go on a long rant, and I'm trying to like stay focused on the overall theme because I guess you would be better sometimes at saying the stuff about my
Oh my
art.
god.
I'm sorry, I'm just like so out of it today, and I'm trying to get it together for this. So I wanted to say in regards to this entire show, I want to thank you for putting something like this together because although there's a lot of talk about um, helping and doing things, actions for climate, there's never really any movement on it. And we're in an industry where we use a lot of energy. We're using our phones, we're constantly on the computer. So we have to find ways to try and offset everything that we're already contributing to. So this is a way for us to do that. And it's a way for artists as well to be able to help spread the message and help open minds to everything that's happening and maybe spark innovation. That's what this actually helped me do. I started a whole like new art project, I guess you can call it, where I try to imagine desalination and water filtration systems in New York City that also have vegetation on them in the future New York that'll also help with flooding because that's a problem in New York City. And if you've ever been in a flood, it is really scary and people die. And a lot of the time that happens in communities that are, I don't want to just say marginalized, but because it happens in working class communities, but it usually happens in those communities. And some people sometimes they can't recover their homes, they can't recover from the loss. So this show and seeing all the artists in it and hearing their messages, it really did um, spark in me something where I really just sat there and started thinking of
You still
of
can't hear me? Or can you hear her too? Can you hear the space
like
sound? Because if
dishes
you can hear
these things because
me, you
I
should be able to
believe
hear
that a
her.
lot of the science and a lot of
I feel like what I really gotta do
the things that are new are inspired by
is.
art. A lot of the technology that we use now,
Oh, you know what
those
I could
people
probably
invented it
do?
because they saw it and
I
read
wonder
it
if
in a
I could
movie.
use
Like it's a
my
real
mic.
thing. You get inspiration from it. So
Then it might be double mic.
just like architects and engineers have to constantly make um, these types of pieces in order to see what their work will look like physically. This is something as well. And also, I also did a lot of research on it, so that's one of the reasons. But the whole point is I wouldn't have ever gotten to that point without this show that was put together by Breezy. So thank you so much for having me here and letting me go on that small rant again.
Oh, you're so welcome. No, thank you. I feel like incredibly honored, like how inspired everyone has been, like how inspired everyone has really like taken this to the next level with their own actions and like their own thoughts and how they impact. So I'm honestly like just blown away. Like when I saw what you were working on for the harbors in New York, I was like, wow, that's so brilliant. Like who would have thought like we're all civil engineers if we want to be, you know, like we all have the ability to actually look at our environments and our surroundings and think about different ways that we could design them for the better. And I think that's such a powerful gift to have. So thank you. I mean, I'm just really really happy that you feel, as inspired as you are, and that it's got you thinking in a new way. And honestly, that's what we want to do, is we want to make sure we inspire everyone to you know think differently about how they act, what they do, what they eat, how they move. That's all important. That's all we can ask for, is just to be conscious of that, not just to consume. So thank you so much. I really love your piece, especially like with the mycelium and just the Mother Earth, and I made sure to put in the description. Everybody, please go click on the descriptions as well. When you click on the links, because all of the links, they have really beautiful descriptions that show every single piece. So I'm happy that you're here. Thank you for being in the kitchen. Thank you for cooking up something for yourself to eat, to take care of yourself as well. So I appreciate that so much. So yes, thank you so much for contributing. And again, happy Black History Month. The Africa is the cradle of humanity. We all come from Lucy. We all come from DNA and from Pangea. So this is a time to celebrate. This is a time to recognize like where everyone comes from, and everyone's history. So with that said, I would love to go to Sungrazers if you would like to speak next, and we can go to your piece. And I would love to have you give us an introduction for yourself as well, and tell us about your pieces that you have, and then we'll mosey on over there in Spatial and check those out next, because they're right next to the New Eve, which is perfect.
Hi, gosh, Brisa. Good morning from Melbourne, everybody. I'm Sarah, one part of Sungraisers, and I've got Jerry with me. And Jerry is playing well, it's not playing. Jerry is zooming around Spatial right now, interacting with Stu and everybody else. I think there's a few. Oh, there you are, Breezy. Hi, darling. You're looking at our cars, and Drownwood is next to it. Sorry, I'm looking at spaces. I'm also in Spatial. Look, the first thing to say before getting into our work, Risa, is when I connected with you, I think it was probably 6 weeks ago or so, and you told Jerry and I about your intention with Mobilise Web3 Climate Gallery. Um, the messaging that you wanted to put forward, Climate Action Now, is completely 1000% what Jerry and I live and breathe. So we just jumped on immediately and just said, we'll just help, any way we can. And know that you were creating a gallery in Spatial. You know, I was like, oh my goodness, well, good luck with that. Because we've created a gallery of our aerial film work in Arium Spaces, and I think that took Jerry about a week to create, didn't it, darling? Last May. Um, and so I just wanted to, start by giving you flowers. It is it is really, really a beautiful space. It's easy to move around. All the art is displayed fantastically, and it's just really a wonderful job. So that was kind of, like the first thing from Jerry and I. And then the second thing, picking up from both Jordan and one Rad Latina, is kind of, look, I guess just to share with you the work that Bruce has selected of ours is from our Hurricane Katrina collection on Object. It's a stills collection that Jerry shot in the immediate aftermath of the hurricane that, as you all know, totally decimated New Orleans.
Coop, can you
the
drop
wider
the spatial
state of
link in
Louisiana.
the chat if you can
We'd
hear
actually
me?
been in Los Angeles for about 6 weeks,
Because if you
filming
can't,
from the air with a new
that's okay
gyro-stabilized
too.
camera
I'm getting ready to like
that
restart
we
the whole
bought,
thing.
and we were going to bring back into Australia where we're based, because we had a big sporting event to shoot in 2006. So we've managed to take money from that event and put it into buying this extraordinary gyro-stabilized camera. And we were at the end of the test shoot, which was about a 6-week process in LA, when I saw on the Thursday before the Monday hurricane hitting, I sort of was watching, the hurricane massing over the ocean, over the water, and I just thought, we have to get down there if we can, and we have to document this scene, for want of a better word, for future generations. Jerry and I had worked in Kuwait after the first Gulf War. We'd filmed bushfires in our country of Australia. We'd seen devastation that floods cause in the UK, where we were originally born. But we'd never seen anything kind of, on the scale of what we could imagine happening. So the very long story short, Breeza, and I don't want to, burble on. As I said, we're aerial filmmakers and still shooters. I managed to get permission for us to enter the airspace, and we spent 2 weeks down in New Orleans. Yes, we did sleep in a schoolyard. We had a helicopter flown down from Los Angeles. We had to arrange remote fuel. The only accommodation I could get was I had to hire a Winnebago out of what was the name? San Diego, and then we all drove down in the Winnebago, which is what we slept in. We ate pot noodles because there was no food. When we picked up the Winnebago, there was no cutlery, crockery, bedware, nothing. It was just an empty shell for 4 people to live in. And I contacted the guy that I'd rented the Winnie from, had to pay up front, and he said, well, you're going down to New Orleans, you're going into a war zone, you're going to get ransacked, so no, we're not going to give you any cutlery, crockery, glassware, bedding, you go and buy it bloody self. So that was, the start of, I guess, our journey. A little bit of a backstory, but of course, everything that we had to endure to get to the location was nothing compared to what we saw. And so this collection on objects, in which I think Breeze has selected 5 or maybe even 6 pieces, is really our way of sharing what we saw, and it's a tribute to those whose lives were lost. We are activists, very much on the environmental side of things, always have been, 25 years. Our work also makes a political statement, and we ask that you consider what you're looking at to understand the messages that we are, putting forward. And to pick up on what Latina was just saying, yes, you're absolutely right. Things like rows of school buses that were submerged in water had been lined up, and we've called the piece Evacuation Plan. but it was never used as an evacuation plan. All those poor souls whose homes were built on, bloody floodland, they were either left behind or they really had to struggle to get out of the city. The Chinook helicopter, which is also one of the pieces, which we've called plugging the broken levees. Those white circles on the ground below the Chinook, yes, they really are sandbags, and that's what the government at the time thought was going to stop the floodwaters inundating. So that's just kind of a real brief about some of the pieces. I'm happy to talk about any of them, but yeah, look, the collection is really important to us. Thank you very much for everyone that's supported us by collecting. We have got a piece at the moment, not from this collection, but it's raising money for the Turkish and Syrian refugees. 100% of the money goes to TES Quake Aid. And like everybody in this exhibition, we will be donating any proceeds we make during the show back to environmental charities that RISA and all the artists are supporting. So yeah, sorry if that was a bit of a monologue. It's a little bit of background, and yeah, handing back to everybody that's an artist. But we're so proud to be part of this, and there's some really, really stunning work, and it's so varied. So thank you for including Little Old Us.
Oh no, we're so happy to have you. And you know, the first time that we had met, I still had so many other questions. So I'm just so happy to like have you back and have you here. And honestly, like I appreciate you giving that detail where it's like, yeah, those are the sandbags that never got used, and those are the uh buses that never got used but were lined up. And how much I feel like we saw the same thing with uh Hurricane Maria, where there were just airplane hangars filled of supplies that never got used, that never got sent out. And it's such a mismanagement, um it's such a mismanagement on our government's behalf. I'm just going to call a spade a spade. And it's also a wake up call for all humans to know that no one is coming to save you. No one. They're going to have those sandbags lined up, and they're going to have those buses lined up, and then they're not going to use them. So keep in mind that you need to be able to save yourself. You need to be able to have a plan of attack. You need to be able to have an escape plan. Just to plan in general is something that people have a lot of anxiety about and are afraid to do. They have this fear of not being able to think that far ahead because it's scary. It's too scary. And that in itself is something that we have to change, where what's scary is when it happens and you're not prepared. That's actually what's really, really scary. So we have to really stop and think like, hey man, like what is the problem of, it's like writing a will. It's almost like writing a will. People will die without writing a will because of the fear and the anxiety of thinking I have to really think about my own death right now. And so let that be a wake up call for everyone. Have an emergency bag, have an escape plan, have something in your car, and have something, ready to get yourself at least through 3 to 4 days on your own. On your own, because nobody is coming to save you. And I feel like your art is such a great reflection of that. And I would love to get into the musical portion of it. I would love if you could tell us like about the music, because that's the thing about NFTs right now that people don't know, is that we have music NFTs. You can actually incorporate music into this and make it be so much more meaningful and beautiful. So I would love for you to kind of touch on that and tell us about the music while I pull up Stu, who is in the audience but I don't think can come up to speak. So I'm going to be speaking on Stu's behalf. But I would love for you to kind of tell us a little bit about the music, and tell us also about what your plans are for the future. We also have a piece in the Mobilize Web3 gallery for Tez Quake Aid. We also have one going towards the Ohio Environmental Council, which are important groups that are helping out with East Palestine, Ohio. So I would love to hear about your piece for Tez Quake Aid. I would love to hear about the music. I had all of these questions before because I feel like we never really got to talk about um, the music that you have with your pieces.
Well, that's very sweet of you, Brisa. Thank you very much. We're actually in the Spatial Gallery at the moment, and I don't think um, there are sort of explanations behind a lot of our work, so there doesn't seem to be the links to the explanations. So we're very happy to talk as much as you like. We did see on one of the pieces there's a link to talk about Toby's music. So yeah, I'm really happy to just give you a real quick one on that. And in the meantime, Jerry's just trying all our other pieces. Um, so so yeah, look, as I said, we're known as being aerial filmmakers. We made an IMAX film about 9 years ago called The Earth Wins, and it was the first time an IMAX film was made entirely from the air. We used sequences from Hurricane Katrina and the bushfires of Black Saturday in Australia um, to illustrate the concept that whatever it is that we do, we humans do, with all the brain power that we think we've got and all the majesty that we think we've got, with all that we do, the earth only has to cough, like it did in the case of New Orleans, or like it did the other day in the horrendous earthquake that we've just endured, or like it did on the White Volcano in Stu's country of New Zealand. The earth only has to cough to prove her might. And I think one of the messages that we feel very strongly about is we really do need to listen to her. We need to listen to Gaia, Gaia, the Gaia principle. Everything is connected. And we seem to have lost that. We seem to think that humans are just, almighty. Well, we're actually not. Um, so anyway, that's kind of like, I guess, the philosophy behind The Earth Wins. As I said, we made the film. We connected with Toby, who has an extraordinary band called The Temper Trap, which will be very familiar to the Europeans in the audience, the Aussies, the Kiwis. They toured with Kings of Leon a couple of weeks ago around Australia, headline Coachella, South by Southwest, things like that. But they're actually Melbourne based. And we connected with them, I guess, about 10 years ago because Jerry had finished our IMAX film and he'd selected some music he wanted me to try and license. And the Temper Trap had two pieces of music. So we connected with Toby and he and his band members very kindly came to the Australian opening of the film at IMAX Melbourne. We also had two pieces of music from New Order, the British band, seminal band, who were originally Joy Division. They came very kindly to our UK premiere. Um, the film played all over the world, the US, Canada, South America, China. It was translated into Spanish, French, Latam. And I guess in kind of saying that to you, I'm sort of showing you that our, Jerry's and I, environmental credentials kind of go back as far as the IMAX film, sort of to 10 years, but they go back another 15 years before that. So all our work in museums and galleries has really been highlighting the environmental messages that I was just kind of talking about. But then mentioning particularly what Brisa was saying about music. So look, as filmmakers, whether you're making a TV commercial or a music video or a 45-minute IMAX documentary feature, there's a soundtrack, there's a narrative, there's often the spoken word. Jerry and I are very visual creatures, as you'll probably see from the work here, and we're also very aural. We love music, we love the fact that lyrics can drive the narrative of the artists, us. And so, look, when we got into NFTs back in beginning of 2021, darling, Jerry and I were in lockdown in Melbourne. It was a really, really shitty time. 5 kilometre radius of our home, curfews at night from, I think it was 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. no planes flying, nobody left their homes. It was, pretty bad for everybody in the world. We've all got our story. But the only good thing that came out of the lockdown for us was that we weren't able to get on location. We couldn't film anymore. But it enabled us to stop and look at the body of work that we created over the years and to deep dive NFTs. And also, we reconnected with Toby after the IMAX film. He'd moved back to Australia from Europe. And we'd been throwing around some ideas in 2020 for working together again. And then the subject of crypto had come up and NFTs. And beginning of 21, we sort of said, okay, we are in this state of lockdown. Toby's studio was only within the 5-kilometre radius of our own. And we were able to get permits so that we were able to work together. We obviously threw film ideas around, through WeTransfer. Toby would then, write sort of a riff, some music behind the piece to illustrate the piece. And that's kind of, I guess, how things came about. All the pieces that are in Brissa's gallery are actually mute because they're stills. But there is a piece called Evacuation Plan. It's also the school buses, but it's animated. It's a piece of film that Jerry flew the chopper for in New Orleans. And the stills Jerry actually shot as well that are in the gallery. So I'll pin that to the nest, if I may, Brissa, and then people, can maybe check that piece out another time. It's actually not for sale. It was a one-of-one, and it was collected about a week ago by Miss and Harriman for the Tezos Permanent Foundation. So that's Evacuation Plan, the animated piece. The stills that are in Brissa's gallery, there are a few remaining. The Chinook plugging the levees, which you're standing in front of at the moment, Brissa, that was also a one-of-one, and that was also collected by Miss Anne for the Tezos Permanent Foundation. So, look, I guess as filmmakers, still shooters, environmental activists, for us to be in the Permanent Foundation means that this work will be forever in the forefront of people's minds. And that was the reason why we created the collection. As you were saying, it's great to have your own evacuation plan from a flood or from the fires of Black Saturday, which came to within a few kilometres of Jerry's and my home. But the point is, we shouldn't be electing governments that build houses on floodplains in the first place. We shouldn't be electing governments that build houses which are so flimsy, like the ones in Turkey, that they can't withstand an earthquake. And that's how I feel to my core. I can get really passionate about it, but I kind of prefer the art to speak for itself. And I'm going to stop talking now because, I'm going to stop talking, and I'll just pin that moving piece if anyone's interested to see it.
That was awesome. Thank you. Yes, claps all around. No, thank you. I wanted to hear that from you directly. I love that your artwork was already about climate before we got started. Like that to me was like, oh, no wonder that you reached out to us, because I'm going to be honest with you, like this wasn't easy to get artists to actually want to talk about climate change for all of the prior reasons that I had mentioned before. A lot of artists want things to be happy and easy to sell, and rainbows and fairies and just simple happy things, like happy thoughts, if you will. So when you really have to think about the reality of climate change, it's not really a sexy topic, if you will. It's not easily digestible for people. So when I had an open call, I actually extended the open call, and it's so funny that like now that people see like, oh, we're doing the spatial, we're doing the Switch gallery, that people are like, oh, I have art, I want to be a part of this. And I'm like, where were you 6 months ago? Because see, the thing about Mobilize Web3 is we had started this
I want to say June 22nd. Whenever Roe versus Wade was turned over, that was the beginning of Mobilize Web3. And it's so fitting that now we're here, on the 22nd of February here during Black History Month, no less. And we're still going because it had started 6 months ago where we were like, look, the most important things that are happening right now is climate change. And we want to make sure that we're putting power back into our indigenous leaders, back into our indigenous climate action activists, because they are the ones who are really on the forefront, have been on the forefront, have always been there, protecting our land, protecting our water, showing us how it's done. And so it's imperative, I feel like, that we draw attention to that through our art and being able to give back to them through the proceeds of our art is just such a powerful way for artists and activists to see and feel like they can make an impact. And with that said, I really want to go now. This is perfect timing to go to Stu Sontier. Oh, my screen broadcasting just quit out on me. Let me go to a full screen. Just a moment, please. With the full screen of me. There we go. All right. I got multiple streams happening right now, so I just finally got my mic, I think, to work on Twitch. So I'm now realizing that my screen broadcasting is giving out, but I'll get back to that in a second. That said, now is a perfect time to go to Stu. I would love to talk to Stu because Stu is from, and I always mispronounce this, Aotearoa. Aotearoa. Is that how you say it? Aotearoa. Is that how you say New Zealand properly? Aotearoa. Is that the proper way how to say it, Stu?
Hi, Risa. Yeah, that's pretty close. Aotearoa.
Aotearoa.
It's probably a bit closer, but
Aotearoa.
I'm not Maori, so I can't give the definitive
Aotearoa. That's all right. That's all right. That's good enough for me. That's close enough for me. As long as you can teach us a new way to say it properly, that always helps. People have a tendency to mispronounce my name all the time, so it's fine. But I appreciate you saying my name today. Stu, it's so good to hear your voice. You were one of the first artists who actually submitted, and you also brought us Floyd in, which I am so grateful for you for that, because Floyd is another incredible artist, and your art, it spoke to me in so many levels when I looked at your Versum page, because in particular your Wakari piece, your White Island piece that you have, Jordan had mentioned in a Mobilize Web3 space. Everybody go watch Volcano on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, go see it. And we were talking about ecotourism and how people will use the environment and capitalize on it and not really respect the land. And so when I saw your art and saw how you were acknowledging the land and giving respect to the land and showing it with your art, I just was so inspired with it that I was like, oh my God, yes. Just like Sungrazers, I was like, we're on the right frequency here. You are a climate activist through your art. You are a climate artivist, if you will. And so I'm just so proud to hear your voice and hear you here and finally get a chance to really speak with you and share more of your art. And I've been slacking on my Mac in here. I'm going to be pinning to the top some tweets that are popping out so that we can see everybody's art. And we do have the spatial link up here as well. So if you look in the nest, you can click on the spatial and come through. And thank you so much, Stu, for being here. And I would love to talk about introduction of you, where you're at, where you're from. And then I'm going to reconnect the spatial here on the Twitch, and then we're going to go through into the gallery and see that. So thank you, Stu, for being here.
Pleased to be here, and I just want to say hi to. Oh, my mind slipped. Sungrazers. I was really interested to hear and really excited to hear, about your activism, and really love those pieces in the gallery. I think they're creepily prescient for what's happening around the world. I don't know if many people are aware, but New Zealand, Aotearoa, has just gone through a couple of really significant weather events, and I have to say, fortunately, myself most of my friends didn't fare too badly, but there are people who are really suffering in a few other regions and out on the coast, just close to where we live, who have just gone through landslides and their houses plummeting to the coast and flooding. So this is a kind of wake up call from more New Zealand, I think. People are kind of getting the message that things going on, and it's not a good message.
No, 100% Stu. You've been interacting with Jerry in Spatial. It's lovely to chat with you. No, you're 100%. I saw with horror what's been going on. I think it was Gisborne, wasn't it? And yeah, I spent 3 years living in New Zealand in my very early 20s, a very long time ago, may I say. And yeah, it's pretty hideous. The thing that really gets to Jerry and I is that whether you say global warming or climate change, the two are totally are interrelated. Those people that say it's not have got rocks in their head, in our view. But yeah, no, I don't want to hog the floor, and I'm happy to pin your piece up into the nest if you like whilst you chat, because it's unbelievable. Jerry's just been showing it to me. It's awesome work that you're doing, and bravo for shining the light.
Oh yeah, that's great to hear. Very pleased for you to do that. Yeah, what am I supposed to do here? I'm kind of like a spaces newbie, really. I've been
Oh,
in a couple, but I haven't.
you're doing great. You're doing it right now. You're absolutely doing it. That's why I'm so happy that you were here, because I was prepared to speak for you. So now that you get to actually connect with Sungrazers directly and like connect with all of the other artists here, I'm just so happy that you're here. Honestly, I would love for you to take us through your piece Wakari and White Island, because we're looking at it right now in Spatial, and it's really a stunning. It's a stunning piece, and I feel like it's something that I feel like more people need to know about. And it also, thank you for acknowledging the flooding that has been happening right now. It has been catastrophic, and I have been seeing what's happening. I have a few friends that on social media alone are showing the cleanup efforts and the places that they have had to go through. People basically stuck on roofs. So very similar to what the type of flooding and devastation that we saw during Katrina is happening right now in Aorta. So I would love to talk about your piece, White Island, and then we can go through and talk about your other pieces as well. And if you want to just give us like a quick intro about your practice and what you do and kind of how you started. And if you would like me to do it for you, I can do it for you too, because thankfully you wrote it all down for us. you gave it to us, and I could read it out. But I'm just so happy that you're here, and you just do whatever feels comfortable. But thank you for being here, Stu.
Yeah, thank you. I'll give it a go. So I'm getting on in age, and I started like my career, I guess, as an electronics engineer, but I sort of quickly got interested in working in some way with art, and kind of transitioned to become a photographer. But I always had I guess, a kind of hidden activist angle going on, and so a lot of the photography I did was based around documenting protests, and this would have been in like late 80s, 90s in Aotearoa, New Zealand, when there was a lot of social unrest. There was a Labour kind of left-leaning government that actually went almost more right than the right-leaning government, and went down the track of the British. What's her name?
Was it Maggie Thatcher?
Thatcher, yeah.
Yeah.
protests about that. There were quite a lot of social unrest for New Zealand. I mean, New Zealand's a pretty conservative, laid-back sort of place, but we can kind of get angry at times. So there was a lot to document, a lot of protests go on, and I kind of felt I was trying to do my bit, and gradually that turned into more of an environmental interest. And actually, the first environmental thing I did was an action called Buy Nothing Day, which was essentially an attempt to poke fun at capitalism and try and get messages out about overconsumption and the impact on the planet. That kind of thing, looking at personal eco-footprint, looking at corporate responsibility for pollution. So I was very involved with that, both photographing and like totally in on doing whatever grassroots activism and political activism I could. But essentially I burnt myself out at a point. I had a son, and a few years after that, my art activity pretty much ground to a halt. Then, once my son got older, I had a bit more time. I started working with the camera again, but kind of wanting to bring it more into personal focus and a sort of as a tool for myself to work through the both personal ideas and political ideas, and so I was looking at how to present photography art in a sort of environmentally sustainable way, and started looking around, started using websites, non-gallery, non-physical ways of showing work. And at that point I also kind of stumbled across NFTs and the whole debate about the environmental impact of blockchains, and the argument between Ethereum and Tezos, for instance, the more greener proof of stake blockchains. So I got involved quite heavily with Hackathonk and now Taya. But behind it all is I'm just interested in just keeping on pushing the message of, I guess the environment is the ultimate important thing for us in both just a general survival point of view, but in nourishment and basically vital to everything. And maybe I'll stop there for another question.
Yeah, Stu, definitely. Facts. Okay, first of all, thank you, because I agree with everything that you said. And it's crazy how like we have the best intentions to like, okay, I'm gonna be the best environmental person, and then kids. And then we have kids. And then it's like, oh my God, I just need the diapers now, and I need the food now, and I need it cut, and I need it now. Like, let's just get through this. Like, and I get it because I was a foster mom for 2 years, and I got to see like firsthand how I went from like, okay, everything in glass and everything is gonna be reusable and linen, until being like, get it now. Is it healthy? Okay, yes, you can have that. So I understand completely where like we can start off with the best intentions, and then we still have to be realistic. We still have to allow grace for ourselves and for our families, and really try to do the best within. I mean, if we can just compost, is what I tell people. I'm like, hey, you don't have to be full vegan, crazy, crunchy granola. If you could just compost properly, which by the way, in the county of Los Angeles, they just passed mandatory that you have to compost. And I'm like, yes, let's get on the Japan wave, where Japan has been having this separation of waste, and let's get on this wave where we just are naturally thinking with that intention, you know. So I completely understand. Thank you for using your art as a way to kind of get that message out and use that further. Um, to go back to your piece on Wakari, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah, WH is becomes an F, so it's more like a fakari.
Fakari. Fakari. Thank you for telling me that. Fakari. Okay, that actually sounds sexier when you say it like that. Fakari. Yeah. So
It's a really different.
yeah, the White Island, that is the same island that they based the documentary for Volcano on. Is that correct? Just to make sure that we're talking about the same one.
I don't know about that show.
Oh, okay. It's not a show. It's a documentary, and
Documentary.
it is a
Yeah, I
documentary.
haven't seen
And
that.
and let me just put it to you like this, and then you can tell me if it's the right one. The helicopter pilots who went in and risked their lives got in trouble for going in and risking their lives from the
Oh,
government
yeah.
for
Well, that's
saving them.
yeah.
Is that it? Are we
So
talking about the same
yeah,
one?
I mean the backstory to that is there's a government, um, say health and safety thing, um, who has the authority or it's their job to look at health and safety risks of both um, future work and they also investigate into after the fact. So they've kind of said that those helicopter pilots were breaking some health and safety rules to go and do those rescues, and I don't know where it's up to at the moment. There were potential prosecutions for that. It's kind of like, I imagine legally they have to go through that process, but I think they're going to find it pretty hard to come up with any um, court mandated penalties or anything like that. On in one hand, it's ridiculous that they're having to go through that process, but my guess is that it's kind of a duty of that organisation to investigate. I guess with the whole attempt to make future ventures like that less risky. There've been a few other incidents like that. I mean, sometimes it seems like they're really overstepping their mandate. But the interesting thing about it is, without those pilots, so many more people would have died in that event. There were incredibly brutal injuries from the hot gases and stuff that people encountered when it erupted, and they needed like immediate medical treatment. So you can't really fault those people who selflessly kind of pushed themselves into helping there.
Yeah, see, this is the part where it's like even your government will not come save you. And from what I understand, because it was so unsafe, the government was like, no, we have to wait a few days until we can go in and do rescue, from what I understand. And that is the scariest part, where these were citizens that happened to have helicopters and the privilege, the access to the helicopters, and they said, hey, I'm going to go in there. And there even was one helicopter pilot who was actually on there when it erupted, and you can see the damage that happened to his helicopter. You can see like all of the debris that basically destroyed his helicopter. And speaking of helicopters, I would love to hear from Sungrazers on this, because I'm sure you have a lot to add to this particular subject. So please join in.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been itching, and I just had little time to cool my profanity down before speaking.
Mm-hmm.
But as an ex-rescue pilot for many years, I can tell you that when bureaucracy gets to the point of trying to legislate at that level and looking to punish people who are trying to save the lives of other people, the world has gone fucking mad.
Amen.
And I cannot even begin to wrap my head around it. And if these guys get done for this, it is a remarkable travesty. There is a rule in maritime law which has got carried forward into aviation law, as many things have. In fact, bizarrely, there was a time when I first started flying helicopters where, just like the captain of a ship, I was allowed to marry people. But how I was supposed to do that while I was flying a helicopter, I'm not quite sure. But
I love the relevance, darling, to what we're talking about.
I'm getting there. There is a rule in maritime law that if required to help, you will help somebody else who is at sea. And the same is true in the air. That if another aircraft is in trouble and you can go and help in some way, and I've had this happen to me and I've done it for others, then you are obliged to do that, both through tradition and through law. So to think in terms of then prosecuting people for doing that, I give up. I really think the world's gone stunningly mad.
And I think just one other thing to share, which is that, a story about Katrina, darling, which you might be able to tell everyone. So basically, there was a news gathering helicopter that was in the air at the same time as us for the whole, I think, 2 weeks that we were there, and they were broadcasting live, handheld aerials, so that the world knew what was going on. And we were the only other artists allowed to record for ourselves, for our own artistry, in order to create this, this historic document, which you've now been able to see. The other choppers that were in the air were the big Chinooks, like the one you've just seen, which was, as I've ironically called it, plugging the broken levees, for God's sake. And there was then also the rescue choppers that were flying overhead, trying to see if there was any, lost souls that could be saved.
Well, they were still plucking people out of their roofs.
Absolutely, rooftops.
Yeah. Their way out into the rooftop.
Yeah.
And I think the story that Sarah's getting to is that with around about 25 helicopters airborne over New Orleans at the same time, there was suddenly a diktat that all helicopters had to land, and all of the rescue helicopters were begging air traffic to be allowed to stay on the task, because they were picking people up time after time after time. And when we asked why everybody had to land, the answer was because the president wants to do a fly past in order that he can have a photo moment in the 747 whilst everybody landed and stopped rescuing people. Again, that we should get to that state that we all have to do that for his safety is insanity. Don't care what politics you're from. And I have to say that most helicopter pilots ignored the ruling.
I'm glad because there's something about knowing better and going worth the risk. There's something about actually having moral character, and we know something or two about a president clearing an entire activation just so they could get a photo op in front of a church. We had something very similar to that during Black Lives Matter in our own country, and it was disgusting to think that this is just for an optics. This is literally for optics. So
yeah, 100%, Risa, 100%. And just picking up what you were saying about Black Lives Matter, and also this month, as you rightly say, Black History Month. I'm so pleased that the gallery has opened this month, and that we can therefore tag Black History Month and Black Lives Matter. No, Jerry and I, we're not people of colour, born in the UK, very blonde, well, not blonde, but we're not people of colour, but we've identified very strongly, as I said, with the work that we've done both in New Orleans, in Africa, particularly Ethiopia and South Africa, as well as with First Nations people around the world. And I don't want to appropriate anybody else's culture, but if through our art and what you guys are all doing in the gallery, we can include not just Climate Action Now, but Black History Month. You know, Black history is what happened in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of really, really important to us, that the world doesn't forget these sort of things. So, yeah.
It also ties in really neatly with my favourite word, which is perspective, and that's what bleeds through to the whole environmental subject. I had an experience of being on duty on Christmas Day and going to do a relatively straightforward flight, which was a transfer of a patient from one hospital to another. And you know, all of you, what it's like on Christmas Day when you're home with the family, and there are all of these immense dramas being played out under your roof. Well, I was flying over a town laid out in a grid pattern, and about 1,000 homes, thinking there is this drama being played out in each of those houses, which is very real when you're down in it. That you've only got to remove yourself by about 1,000 feet, which was the sort of height I was flying at, and there's the sun, there's the sky, the waves are still crashing on the shore, as they did yesterday and as they will tomorrow, and the perspective of the people within their boxes can't begin to take in the sort of thing that I was taking in just by removing myself to a certain extent. And we've tried so much in all of our art to convey this thing of perspective from the privileged position of being airborne, to try and give some sense of scale. And just harking back to what we were saying about New Orleans, there came a point to which I said to my cameraman, let's just stop, let's just take your eyepiece away from the camera and look out the window and try and wrap our heads around how big this is. And we put it into our own terms of our own city of Melbourne, and went, okay, so it's about as far as from the Dandenongs on one side to Werribee on the other, and the whole lot is underwater. And it was only by finding a yardstick like that we could wrap our heads around and begin to understand scale, because humans are not very good at understanding scale. So a lot of the climate crisis figures don't really ring home. So we see our job as making the horrifying look beautiful, because if you can do that, and I would exhort you to look at the pieces in this gallery in that light. If you can look at it and go, well, that's beautiful, and then it gives you pause to go, hang on a minute, this is awful that I'm looking at. How come I found it beautiful? So that's something we try to do in every piece of art.
Thank you. That's really, really beautiful, and I appreciate so much, like, just the dedication that you have to the environment, and the fact that you're able to, like, put it into your art like that. And I want to take a moment and give Queen Kara a moment to speak, because I know she's had her hand up for a minute, and just acknowledge her for, hey girl, you there?
Hey, I am totally here. Thank you so much for having me tonight, everybody. And just this room has been so wonderful and informational, and just full of such great inspirational art. Um, Stargazers, I have to say thank you for doing what you have done to provide such wonderful viewpoints um, on the world. And Stu, I know we just met, but I'm grateful for your standpoint as well. And man, this has been such a great room. I'm here to introduce myself a little bit before I have to go. I don't want to take up too much time, but I did want to say to you, Miss Brisa, I think I'm saying it right, Breezy. We'll just call you Breezy because I'm better at that. If you wouldn't mind bringing my friend DeFi Blockchain University up. I know they have a lot of value to add to this discussion that was just occurring, and I'd love to introduce them while I talk about my art. Um, we just met recently, but they've educated me so much on why these topics are so very important right now today. With what everything is going on around the world, earthquakes, rain, and snow across the United States is what we're experiencing today. 29 states exactly, I believe, or more, we're experiencing some sort of pouring thunderstorm or snowstorm, all the way from east to west. And tomorrow here in some sort of pouring thunderstorm or snowstorm, all the way from east to west. And tomorrow here in my state of Indiana, it's going to be a beautiful 60 degrees with wind. These are not normal types of conditions that we would be experiencing in mid-February. Maybe you have ice and snow, but then 60 degrees the next day. What the consequences of humans' actions. But then I think about things such as cannabis and how that has affected my personal life, and how if we had access to grow outdoor cannabis, how that could really change the planet, just from how it would change the atmosphere. Being able to grow that plant as just a plant across our great lands of this planet, I think could possibly change the planet. So I was inspired by that thought process and created some beautiful art. To me, we have a lot of technology available at our fingertips these days. Cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, AI art is one of my favorite ways to create art, and I did use artificial intelligence to create these beautiful pieces of artwork. To me, utilizing these tools has been not only therapeutic, but it's been such a recovery process to get through some of the hate the world has shown us. And being able to be here in the space with all these people from different walks of life, all over different cultures, all over the planet that we share, is such a privilege to someone like me. I do live in a small box in the middle of America, and oftentimes, people think about perspective and what would happen if a natural disaster hit your country. Like, you don't really know what to do in that situation. And I've been sitting here questioning and listening and thinking to myself, what exactly could we do as a human race, other than just be more mindful of what we do every day, more mindful of how we treat one another, more mindful of the things that other people are saying, so that we can absorb those things and just be, visual sponges. Absorb everything. More mindful of the things that other people are saying, so that we can absorb those things and just be, visual sponges. Absorb everything that you can. I can't access the spatial link. That's one of the problems I'm having. So I'm just letting you guys know I'm having that technical error right now. But I just wanted to say thank you for having me up on the stage tonight. Thank you for allowing me to share my beauty. Sometimes when I do those things. But I just wanted to say thank you, and offer the people listening, um, the opportunity to hopefully resonate with the art that I created, and the others in this room that have created such interesting, intricate, and just strong pieces of artwork, no matter what the medium is that they've used. And it's such a wonderful thing to be here today. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Kara. No, thank you, Canna Queen Kara. I definitely would love to bring up DeFi up in the next 15 minutes if we can. I would love to have him come up. We're gonna have an AMA at the end, so if anybody has any questions at the end, they can definitely come up, and we would love to hear from DeFi in the next 15 minutes. And Canna, if you could actually pin to the top your pieces that you dropped in the chat here, I would love for you to put them into the nest. Do you know how to pin to the top in the nest?
Yeah, let me make a new tweet that has the 3 pieces that are posted to the gallery in it, and then I will post
I would love that. Yes, and thank you for bringing DeFi. And we're all about expanding our network here when it comes to being environmentally conscious. And that's why I feel so lucky to have people like Stu, people like Sarah and Jerry, people like One Rad Latina, people like Jordan, people like you, Canna Queen Kara. We're so happy to have all of these different people and intersections come together and really share how they feel about the environment, how they feel about the space. This is something that's so important for us, for people to recognize and realize that we only have one planet, literally only have one planet. There's a reason why I think hemp was made illegal way back in the day, because they saw the power medicinally and they were like, wait a minute, do you know how many industries this could disrupt with this one thing? No, we're going to make this be illegal. And who would know if 100 years ago how our planet would be if we had more hemp-based products. If instead of petrol we were running off of hemp oil. That's really where we should be today, and I believe in that future as well. So I love your art pieces. I would love for you to be able to pin to the top and share. They're really, really beautiful. There was a moment in the gallery where the pieces weren't showing up, so I had to restart, and now I'm in the spatial and gonna walk over to your pieces now, but I would love for you to pin it up for those that are not able to have access to the gallery just yet. And don't worry about it. It's one of those things where um, if you don't have a desktop, they have an app, but if not everybody has the crossover to want to be able to converge to a new app. Not everybody has the bandwidth, literally the capacity in their phone to be able to have so many apps. So I get it when it's like, look, I'm just here to participate in Twitter Space, and that's it. I get it. We're just happy to have you and have your art here. And I see that One Rad has their hand up. I want to hear from One Rad as well, and then I kind of want to go back to Stu. I want to go back to one of Stu's pieces before we introduce to Floyd. So yes, one Rad Latina, please go ahead. I see you got your hand up.
Hey, so I'm cooking, so I have to put the phone down to listen, and then I have to like write some of this, remember? So before I forget everything again, I just want to bring attention to East Palestine, Ohio, and the train derailment that happened there, and that is also another environmental disaster. I want to remind everyone, as everyone was talking about hurricanes, and someone brought up Hurricane Maria. I want to remind people that in Puerto Rico, more than
you're the best. You're the best. No, thank you. We did talk about Tezquake. We did talk about East Palestine, Ohio. Some of the pieces are going to be contributing to Ohio Environmental Council, and they're the good folks who are on the ground out there, been doing the environmental conservation work in Ohio for a minute, and now they have even more work to do. And I completely, wholeheartedly agree with you that like these are reoccurring things that are going to continue to happen because we cannot rely on our government to save us, and they're not going to take the precautions that we need to take for ourselves to keep ourselves safe. So we definitely need to continue to talk about this, continue to have outlets and ways and people who will listen. And I really appreciate what you said there, that it got you thinking, because that's really all that we can ask. We can just ask that people think differently. Think differently about the way that they consume. Think differently about the way that they move. Think differently about the way that they travel and why they travel. So I love your piece in the chat. Please pin it to the top as well. With the waterworks that you're doing, I think that's so incredibly inspiring for people to think about how they can make an impact like that. And with that said, in spatial, we are actually over by one of Stu's pieces that I feel like I want to give him just one more shine and shout out before we go into Floyd, because he brought in Floyd, and Floyd is an amazing artist as well. But Stu, we are in front of In a Sense Calm, and I would love to hear your thoughts and your process on that, because it's such a beautiful piece, and we are looking at it in spatial now. It's actually one of the stunner pieces that opens up the gallery. So I would love, Stu, if you have a moment to talk about that.
Hi, yes, and kia ora to Floyd, if Floyd's here. Because I think, Floyd, you're from Aotearoa as well. Yeah, so I'm kind of carefully avoiding talking about my pieces before, but so uh, I'll give you an idea of what's going on with the making of them. There's three pieces in the gallery, I think. All of these are from a project I've been um, working with particular tools for about a year, and the main tool, these are all appropriated images, stills from satellite mapping apps, mostly Google Earth, because how I started, with my photography, I've kind of realised I'm not interested in figurative material so much now, and not even necessarily needing to use a camera myself anymore. There's plenty of images out there, and that can be reused. And basically, I had an interest in the Great Barrier Reef about a year ago, and I stumbled into Google Earth looking around the Great Barrier Reef in quite high zoom, and found that Google Earth was overcolouring and also fracturing the map images up in certain, when it was driven in a certain ways, and just got really fascinated by that imagery and the relevance of it to all my concerns. So for instance, the fracturing that you get in one of those other images, I think the image that's on one of the posters, when Google can't actually put its satellite images together, can't stitch them properly together, or it's using cloud removal techniques that don't quite work all the time. And that kind of stuff really, from an intellectual point of view, fascinates me. That kind of idea of reality being unable to be presented in the form we expect it to be in, So that particular piece, I started looking at small islands in the, um, particularly in the Pacific region, which many of them are having, huge climate problems now, and even 10 years ago, um, islands like Nauru, Tuvalu are just, actually disappearing, and New Zealand has even had climate refugee applications from people trying to, looking at their island disappearing and realizing that they need their escape plan. Uh, so yeah, basically, I'm those things are going through my head as I spend hours and hours looking at areas in Google Earth that have that relevance to me, and I put together either as stills or animated GIFs or short films, short videos. So
Wow.
that's the backstory of it.
Wow. You mean to tell us Google is lying to us? No. You don't say. You
Lying to us in so many ways. Yeah, that's again one of my interests in, that comes from the idea of contemporary photography. Of how, whether you can tell what you're seeing is real or not, or has any relevance to reality, or has 50% relevance to reality, and the fact that machines are now presenting and building imagery for us, and how much you can. I mean, there's I get into it pretty deep and passionately about how much we may not be seeing. What we see is not actually a true representation, not just in Google Earth, but
in the media in general. And then it's funny when we talk about Google Earth, and then it's like, oh, you mean Google, the same company, Bezos, who also owns Washington Post and all of the different media outlets. So now we're hearing and seeing different sort of articles like billionaires aren't so bad. You should just skip your avocado toast. Or what was the latest article that came out here? I think they said like, oh, you should just skip breakfast. If you're having economic problems, just skip breakfast. And I thought to myself like, this is the same thing as like telling millennials they destroyed the economy, and now they're saying Gen Z is destroying the economy as well. And I was like, or that's the same thing that they said to Gen X, and I'm sure it was the same thing, that they said to all of the other generations before us. And that's the problem definitely with our media, with our mainstream media in particular, is that you have to follow the money. You have to see who's actually paying the bills and keeping the lights on, and then those are the people who are actually making the narratives of what they want you to see or how much they want you to see. Because keep in mind, if it wasn't for social media, I don't think any of us would be hearing about East Palestine, Ohio. If it wasn't for, because they were arresting journalists there. So if it weren't for the power of social media and the power of Web3 and the power of our connections and our networks, who knows how much we would even know about what's going on out there. So with that said, Stu, I love your piece. Thank you for giving us that extra little bit of knowledge in that, because that makes it even more stunning to know that like Google is lying to us, been lying to us, and the pictures that they show us that we see are not always as they seem. And with that said, I would love to go into Floyd, because Floyd's piece is actually right next to you. We have one of Floyd's pieces, and then on the other side of the gallery, he actually messaged me and sent me something to say about his piece. So what I will do is stand over next to one of Floyd's pieces here, which is called Coalesce, and then I'm going to read for Floyd a quick little intro of him before we go over to his piece, and then he can tell me, or I should say I will speak on his behalf about his piece. So Floyd Wilde is a contemporary college artist who practices the daily art of Collage, combining random images and text from blog posts and news stories published on the internet to create unique and thought-provoking pieces of art. Inspired by Tristan Tzara's principles of Dadaism, Wild's process is a surprise to both the artist and the audience, making each piece a unique and exciting discovery. With a focus on the intersection of art and technology, Floyd Wild continues to push the boundaries of traditional collage, creating captivating and imaginative works of art. I asked, how do you feel climate art inspires your art? Climate change and its impact on our environment is a subject that resonates deeply with me, both as an artist and as a global citizen. As a collage artist, my work relies on electricity and technology to generate the pieces, but I am acutely aware of the impact that these technologies have on the environment. This awareness fuels my passion to create art that reflects the urgent need for action on climate change, while also striving to minimize my own carbon footprint through the responsible use of technology. I believe that it's important to embrace innovation and technology, but also to constantly seek ways to make them more sustainable and equitable for future generations. With this in mind, I continue to create art that highlights the beauty and fragility of our planet and serves as a reminder of the vital role we play in preserving it. So yes, this is Floyd Wild, and I also want to go over to now the other side of the gallery, because you know it's fun to get your exercise when you look at everybody who's in here. Oh my goodness, I'm just now like realizing like everybody who's in the gallery. Thank you everybody for being here. You could have been anywhere in the world, but here you are in our spatial checking us out. So thank you for being here. So now I'm over by Floyd's piece Swathis, and I'm going to read from Floyd what he said here. He says, my artwork starts with collage.art, and from there I derive prompts to generate AI pieces, both text and image prompts. One day a text string came up, large swaths of paradise. The algorithm I created generated the text from a news story where the actual heading was large swaths of garbage. So here you can see drone footage reveals swaths of paradise, and I thought to myself, if we continue on this path, the swaths of garbage will become normal, and the headline will actually become what was in the collage post. It will be rare to see these swaths of paradise on our planet. Yes, this is the power of manifestation, okay? People, this is called fake it till you make it. And this is called actually visualizing the world that you want to see. And in Swaths of Paradise, I think that's a great example of that. That even though he took a headline that said swaths and swaths of garbage, he decided to change it and flip the narrative and say, I want to see swaths of paradise. And that is how he was able to create this piece. So that's actually a really cool way to step over to our next artist who was not able to make it here today, but it definitely very important, a climate scientist. Please take your time to walk around the gallery and check all of the different artists out. But now what I want to do is go over to Be Kind. Be Kind is Jessica Kind, and Jessica Kind is a climate scientist. And Jessica Kind is also one of the first artists to reach out to us here, and I'm so happy to have her art be a part of our. If you look in the pin top or in the pin tweets here, you'll see an entire thread for Be Kind Jessica art, but I'm gonna go ahead and read it for her on her behalf while I go over to her art. I love her art pieces because her art pieces are very colorful, they're very graphic, and they're also very to the point. Like they're very concise in telling you exactly what is going on with their art. If, as they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words, Jessica Kind, Be Kind, has figured out a way to have her art speak 1,000 words. So with that said, Be Kind is the social and environmental conflicts of the 21st century are the main topics of Jessica Kind's art. The artist sees herself as an observer and critic of the destruction of nature and the breakdown of traditional ways of life, mapping social and political injustices, cultural conflicts, and the pressures that modern life demands of us. One form of her expression is the combination of poetry and digital art to raise awareness to the injustice she sees herself surrounded with and the society has seemingly normalized. Her recent work focuses on Maya Tisuchuli people in Santiago, Atitlan. that she calls her home now. With the bright colors of her pop style, she aims to capture the beauty and diversity of the colors in the traditional clothing of the Maya cultures. Besides being an artist, she is passionate about environmental education and climate change mitigation and adaptation projects. How do you feel climate inspires your art? Creating environmentally and social critical art is my passion since I was a small girl. I'm convinced that through art of any form, we can draw attention to the incongruities of our world to usher in the systemic change that is necessary for humanity to survive. So I love Jessica's work because, as you can see here, this is a family that has had to migrate. This is a family that has had to move because of climate change. And this is something that is going to be happening all throughout the world as the sea levels rise. And that's why it's so upsetting when people are putting up new properties on marshlands, on areas that there should not be any construction at all. There should be marshes, there should be mangroves, there should be actual trees and wildlife there to keep the land intact instead of degrading it and adding construction. So I really appreciate Jessica's work because she's showing the actual effects of climate migration and what it looks like to have to move from where you live. And for people in the United States who think that climate change is fake and that's not real, I want you to do yourself a favor and Google the Dust Bowl and research the Dust Bowl, because the Dust Bowl happened in the United States not that long ago, about 100 years ago or so, and it created a mass climate migration from the middle of the United States to the east and west coast in a search for work, in a search for water, in a search for habitation, because people's houses were literally under dust. There was like 6 feet of dust that came through and blew through, and it is catastrophic for people to think that that can't happen today, because it continues to happen in a lot of different places. So just like we are seeing a lot of flooding and we are seeing a lot of mass environmental changes happening in the world, we definitely need to acknowledge that if it happened in the past, it can happen in the future, and it is happening now. And I loved Be Kind's work, how she does that, how she's able to share that. So with that said, I would love to also open up the panel for all of our guests now. We're here on the 3:38 mark, which is, I'm running a tight ship. I have a very tight schedule. I want to make sure that I talked about all of our different artists first. Oh, I didn't talk about Pat. I didn't talk about Prince Pat. Let's see if it actually loaded. If that loaded, because if I can talk about it now. Yeah, okay, cool. It did load. The first time that I was in Spatial, for some reason, it was just a big white block, so I wasn't able to talk about Prince Pat's piece. And I will also be pinning to the top as well, Into the Nest, some of these pieces as well. If you go through and see the Spatial link, you'll be able to see them there. And all of our pieces that we have available are also on Object. So we have the link as well, going to be dropped in there. So with that said, I want to also talk about Pat. So Pat's piece, Pat is a really good friend of mine. Pat is a illustrator, graphic designer, photographer in Southern California, and he has a really great way of getting his subjects to feel really comfortable and be able to make them look better, just like a badass, like realer than real, like even better than real life. And I really love that about Pat's work. He was not able to make it here as well, but I definitely want to give Pat Wynn his flowers. He is also known as Prince Pat 3000 as well on Instagram. So please go and check him out as well, because he is definitely an artist inside of our gallery that I'm very proud of, and happy that I could onboard him into Tezos, which was the big deal. I had asked him, you know, like, hey, what do you think about getting into NFTs? Like, I don't know about all that. And I was like, yeah, well, if I do it and if I help you, will you set up a wallet and get it? He's like, I'll think about it. So to me, that's one win for us in onboarding and getting our friends into the game. If they don't know about clean NFTs, please let them know about Tezos, because it's important to bring them over to the dark side, as I say, and get them involved. So with that said, thank you so very much for our speakers who have come up to speak, and I want to also invite Will. I see Will came up to speak, and then I see that we have DeFi here. Thank you, DeFi, for your patience. Appreciate you. Thank you for your patience. I got your sign of approval from Canna Queen Kara, so she speaks very highly of you. So I'm happy that you could be here.
But she's a friend of mine, and we've been talking. But what I wanted to speak about is I have a spatial NFT gallery of my so my PFP is a VRG coin. I think my spatial NFT gallery is called the VRG coin gallery, NFT gallery. And also are you live on Twitch right now?
Yes, we are live on Twitch right now.
Okay, great. So I've built worlds in the metaverse live on Twitch. I actually just built a Bitcoin verse world live on Twitch. I can pin that up to the top if you want to see it.
Sure, yeah. I think Canna Queen said that you were gonna like talk about her pieces or bring us like you were gonna like educate us on some of her pieces, or was that correct?
No. So what I do is I'm a edutainment maxi DeFi blockchain university. It's the world's first decentralized university, and just educating people, entertaining people, kind of thing.
Got it. Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate you. Thank you. Yeah, you could definitely put it into the chat and let us know like where your links are at. If you see down to the side. I'm sorry?
Do you have a spatial gallery?
We're in a spatial gallery right now.
Are you in there like on your phone or on the VR?
Yeah, I'm on my phone in there right now, and I'm broadcasting through Twitch. Right now, I'm screen broadcasting through Twitch.
Okay, cool. It's cool that you can do that. Could you DM me the spatial link, or would I be able to join you guys?
Yeah, so if you actually look up at the top here in the nest of Twitch, there's a spatial link. You'll see the spatial link there, and you can click on it and join us into the gallery now, live. So that's in there. So that said, thank you so much for coming in to join us. I'm so happy that you could be here and be a part of it. I see that we also had Will. Will, thank you for being so patient for coming up to speak. I'm so happy that you were here. Thank you for being a part of our MW3 Climate Gallery.
Hey, how's it going, friend? Good to see you. Long time no talk. Anyways, congratulations, grand opening, and you're already trending on Spatial. I don't know if you saw that or not, but
send me a screenshot. Send me a screenshot. Oh my goodness, there's like too many things happening at once. I'm telling you, like between the Twitch and this, I'm like I can't be there. But thank you for telling me that, Will. I appreciate you. That's so awesome. Thank you.
yeah, no worries. And I love the gallery. Nice setup. Very clean. I love the work that's displayed in there. You guys are doing great things. I'm learning from people like you. So when I get ready to set up my own content and spatial, I'll already be ahead of the game. So just trying to come up here and compliment you and congratulate you, and it's always a good time hanging out.
Oh, thank you so much, Will. And if I was to give you any bit of advice, do about 4 test runs, because I did 3. I did 3 test runs of everything, of all the bells and whistles, and made sure everything was connected. And then on the day of, it was like, you know what? How about no? How about no? So you make sure you do about 4 test runs, 4 dry test runs before you get everything going, before you actually go live. Because me, I was convinced that 3 was the lucky number. I was like, hey, I did 3 tests. I should be fine. But that's okay. We roll with the punches. We have a saying in our house, which is we make lemonade. So when life is always throwing you lemons, you better learn how to make some spicy margaritas. You better learn how to like make the best out of what life gives you. And so I really, really appreciate that. And thank you so much for checking out the gallery. Thank you to everybody that came through into the gallery. I'm so proud that we could be trending on Spatial. I had no idea, honestly. It's one of those things where it's like you just hope for the best. You put it out there and you hope for the best. One thing about me, I feel like it's important that I talk about one of my pieces now, because I definitely am an artist and creator myself, but I'm also a curator. The last time that I had to curate a gallery, it was in Santa Monica at the Bergamot Station for the Pico Youth and Family Center, which is something that's very near and dear to my heart. Not too long ago in 2018, there was a Woolsey fire, which was the Santa Monica fire, where you literally saw horses running through the streets trying to evacuate from Topanga Canyon from the fires that were coming. And it was so close to us where we were, that, you know, you could see the orange sky just cover the entire sky from all of the ash. Now, just a few years later in 2020, almost like clockwork, we'd have the Bobcat fire, which was even closer. And this was so bad that all of my neighbors evacuated because of the air quality. And if you had your pets outside, they would perish because the air quality was so bad. And it was at that moment that I realized that I was like, wow, I'm the only one here. I better get my mask. I better get my full on gas mask and get ready for what's next. Because what comes next after evacuations? Looting. Looters come next. And it was one of those situations where I realized I'm all by myself here, and this is a part of climate change. So when I was coming up with the concept of this gallery, I wanted to make sure that I put out a piece that definitely represented the fire, the Santa Monica fire, the Woolsey fire, and also represented the Bobcat fire, because it is so very close. So close that when you go outside, you cannot breathe. You literally cannot breathe. So I want you to think about all of the wildlife that has no home to go into, that does not have a Dyson filter or a face mask, or does not have the luxury. And I want you to think about the unhoused, the people that are unhoused, that are also being affected by this as well. So when we have these sort of cataclysmic events, we need to acknowledge them and recognize that, like, we are so very lucky to be alive and to have survived. Now, what can we do to create change, systemic change? With that said, somebody who is making a lot of good change is May in the room. I see May down below. She has a wonderful space called For Social Good, for environmental good. And I want to shout her out because it is Black History Month, as I said, and we want to acknowledge all of our wonderful Black creators. So please, if you have not followed May, please see what May is doing. May actually has a project that is highlighting other Black creators in the space. You could see in her pinned tweet as well. Please go check it out in Nifty Gateway and acknowledge our Black artists and our Black creators. And shout out to May for all of the good that she is doing with her spaces for social good and for environmental good as well. It literally takes a village, and we all have to amplify each other and shout out each other and give flowers to each other, because it's not easy to talk about this stuff. You know, it's a lot easier to talk about alpha and flipping and sales and things like that. It's like, no, we actually got to talk about what matters. And so I really appreciate people like May in the space, people like Jermaine also in the space, Curious Anarchy, people who are people like Onaji as well, people who come into Web3 for the better, to make the space better and educate others. And so I definitely want to give them their flowers as well in the space here. As we are coming to the end, I'm so happy to hear from everybody who has been here. Thank you to everybody who has visited the Spatial Gallery. I'm really proud of what we have created here. If you feel like this is something that you want to be involved in or be a part of, please contact us at Mobilize Web3. We are always looking for people who give a shit and are with the shits, if you will. And in this space, it's important to make sure that we all connect with people who are on that same frequency, who, like those brave helicopter pilots, they're with the shits. They're gonna come in and do what's right. They're gonna save people. And if you can let one person know, like, hey, switch to glass. Hey, let me take paper instead of plastic. Hey, guess what? I brought my own bags. Or this is a new thing that I'm trying to do, and it is funky as hell. People give me weird looks, but I don't care. I'm starting to bring my own to-go containers when I go out to eat. Oh my gosh, right? How taboo. But I'm pulling out my own to go container when I leave, and they'll look at me sideways, but then they're like, oh, okay, cool. And the restaurant's like, hey, you're saving me money, where I don't have to buy another container that somebody's just gonna throw away on a single use. So that's my new thing. So if I can inspire anybody here in this space to do that, I would love that. And if anybody wants to come up and ask any questions towards the end in the last 10 minutes, we would love that. We also are going to be having our calls to action. There are a couple of tweets that we have been sending out on the Mobilize Web3, and I want to acknowledge some of the organizations that we are going to be donating to. One of them in particular is Indigenous Climate Action. Indigenous Climate Action actually has a magazine that they're putting out, and I submitted our art from the Mobilize Web3 gallery to them. So I'm very happy to say that we will be supporting them as well and having our art be showcased as well. And I also am supporting the Tez Quake Aid. I'm also supporting the Ohio Environmental Council. And the Ohio Environmental Council is basically boots on the ground right now in East Palestine, Ohio. And I'm very, very happy to be working with them as well. That said, we have more calls to action in our tweets that we are going to be sending out. So please follow us at Mobilize Web3 and let us keep you up to date and abreast. Climate change does not have to be scary. Climate change does not have to be overwhelming. It's more about how you change the way that you think about it and know that you are an active participant in the world. Things are not happening to you, you are happening with the world. So when you realize that, then you can kind of change your mind frame into realizing that you do have an impact. You can make a big difference. When other people see the things that you do, you are inspiring them in ways that you have no idea, in ways that they did not know were possible. So with that said, I'm really, really proud of everybody who came through and everybody who showed up here today. We will be sending out more thank you tweets to everybody who came through and shared as well. And last but not least, I want to give a shout out to Kenna Queen Kara, who had to leave, but I'm gonna go ahead and pin her piece to the top, and also Floyd as well. I'm gonna be pinning his piece as well. Thank you so much for all of our artists that came through. And if there are any closing thoughts from any of our speakers, I see we got Sungrazers who's still up here. Thank you for sticking with me through all of this whole space. It's been 2 hours. It's been a lot. So any closing thoughts from Sungrazers, I would love to hear from you. And then we'll be closing out here.
Well, gosh, closing thoughts. I'm so glad that you took us in spatial over to your piece of art, because you are one of the most generous people I've come across in these spaces. And Jerry and I have been, pretty active here since 2020 and 21. And to see the work you've put into this gallery, giving all we environmental artists, climate change, global warming activists the opportunity to stand alongside you and stand alongside everybody else from all around the world, and in particular in Black History Month, for our work to showcase, really, honestly, I can only say the atrocities behind the planning of the rescue missions for Katrina. I think we've heard from Stu, who's spoken so eloquently on his art for Aotearoa. Hope I've pronounced that correctly. And also Jordan the Angel, One Rad Latino, Kana Queen. The only thing I'd say, to add to what I was just sharing, giving flowers to you, is I'm very sad, because I can't follow any more people at the moment, because I think I've hit the 5,000 mark yet again. It happens most days. So I'm going to follow Jordan the Angel, One Red Latina, Cannon Queen, and every single artist that's in this room. And I just encourage you all to give flowers back to MW3 and to Breezy. And we look forward to the month ahead, when we're going to try and get maximum sales for all of us, so that we can each donate back to the organisation. So thank you so much. Jerry's actually had to pop off because we're working on another collection at the moment, but he also said thank you for letting him talk about side of things. So thanks very much, darling. You've done a great job for all of us, and I really applaud what you've done. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup. No, thank you. You're wonderful, and I really appreciate you reaching out to me. I'm not sure how you found us, but honestly, it's just the universe providing. Because when I saw your work and I just saw the passion, and then more importantly, when I heard your voice and I got to hear how you feel about it, I was like, yes, we're on the level. We are on the level, and we know exactly how important this is, and what precedent we have to take to do this. And it's literally going to take a village for all of us to be able to bring this home, literally to our homes. We have to talk about this at the dinner table. We have to talk about this with our parents. We have to talk about this with our parents' parents. And we have to, because the kids already get it. Let's be real. The kids already get it. It's the parents that we got to talk to so that they are teaching their kids. That's really how we're going to create change here. So I really appreciate, from the bottom of my heart, just your passion and your effort. Thank you for talking about the rescue efforts. That documentary, I encourage everyone to go watch it. It is called Volcano. It shows the absolute devastation that happens with ecotourism and eco-capitalism, and what happens when people do not regard safety first and respect the land. Respect the land, because I'm pretty sure there were a lot of people who could say you don't have no business going up on a volcano in the first place. Respect the land. So with that said, I'm so proud that we made it. We made it through all of this time. Thank you so much to all of our artists that have participated. Thank you to Stu Sontier. Thank you to Floyd Wild. Thank you to Jordan the Angel. Thank you to One Rad Latina. Thank you to Be Kind Science, Jessica Kind. Thank you to Canna Queen Kara. And thank you so much to Sungrazers and to Pat Wynn, and to anybody that I forgot. We're just so grateful that you all could be here and participate with us and be a part of this. You could have been anywhere in the world, but here you are with us. Please check out the spatial. Please take screenshots. Please share them with us and tag us at Mobilize Web3. Please follow each other, because this is a very small community. I'm finding people who care about climate change. Not a lot of us out there. So if you're in this room, please follow each other, because it means that we all actually care about the same things. And stay in contact with us at Mobilize Web3 for the next seasons. This Indigenous climate action has been our focus since June 22nd of 2022. We are going to be transitioning into mental health and sex work resources, because we feel like it's important that we have safe spaces for our adult industry sex workers. Not all mental health spaces are created equal. So at Mobilize Web3, we are intersectional, and we want to make sure that we have all of our bases covered. So for next month, we are going to be starting into our mental health and sex work spaces. Thank you so much for being at the tail end of our Indigenous Climate Action Mobilize Web3 Climate Gallery. I'm incredibly proud and fortunate to be able to share this space with such incredible human beings. Not just incredible artists, but just incredible human beings. That's definitely something that I have learned in this Web3 space, is that just because you're an artist doesn't mean you're a good person. So the more people that are actually good people and getting into this Web3 artistry, the better, because then we'll be able to change the environment from within. So with that said, I'm incredibly, incredibly proud of everyone who has been a part of this space. Again, if I have forgotten anyone, I'm so sorry. Thank you for being here. Shout out to everybody who is in the room. Shout out, I'm going to take a quick little screenshot to everybody who made it. Thank you for coming into the spatial. Thank you for being who you are, really. And make sure that you follow Sungrazers and Jordan and Stu and all of our artists who we've had here be a part of the gallery. We really, really appreciate you and all of your time. And check us out on the replay. I will be making clips from the Twitch channels and from the YouTubes. So definitely stay tuned for that. We're going to make sure that we have the audio right first before we do that. And get ready for our next Twitch show. Our next Twitch show is actually going to be next week once we have the audio right. And I'm going to be highlighting Black artists during Black History Month, because we have not been seeing enough of that. So if there are any Black artists in the space that is hearing this and listening to this right now and you would like to be featured, very similarly to how we had our show today featured on Twitch and in spaces, please feel free to DM me. Otherwise, I'm going to have a list. And looking at you, May, you're actually at the top of the list there. So I'm very, very happy to have this time, have this energy, have this room. I'm going to go ahead and pin to the top here our thank you tweet for everyone in the space. Thank you so much to everyone who came through. You know, like I said, you could have been anywhere in the world, but here you are with us. And with that said, I hope you have a wonderful day. Please drink some water. Please go for a walk. Please go get some fresh air. Please go do something nice for yourself to decompress and take care of yourselves. And most importantly, take care of each other. Peace, everyone. Wow, it was a lot. It was a lot, guys. It was a lot. What can I say? I'm gonna have to figure out all of this stuff again, but I'm so happy that it happened. Yay! The space was success. Spatial was success. People were happy. I am happy. 2 hours. Oh my God. 2 hours is a long time to be streaming. Thinking to myself right now. Like, that's a long time. People be doing this like a long, long time. But it was fun. We got to talk about the environment. We got to talk about planets. We got to talk about all kinds of stuff. Shout out to everybody who came through. And shout out to you, Coop, being my one viewer as my mod. Shout out to you. Thank you for being here. I did it. Oh my God. I did. Can you hear me now? Can you fucking hear me now? Because now I'm seeing that my microphone is working. It's like, now I can actually talk to you. Because my microphone is working, right? I'm actually seeing. I had to add a whole new microphone. I had to add a whole new microphone in the middle of all of this shit that was going on. While I'm like walking around in spatial and shit. I'm like, ah! And I'm sure I was double mic'd. Like, I'm sure the shit was like, but I wasn't hearing any audio from the thing there. So man, there's a lot of bells and whistles going on. Let me just tell you, there's a lot of things going on in order to make this happen. But at least it worked. So with that said, I'm about to go drink all the water and stop talking. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you for giving a shit about the environment. Little clips coming in soon. Shout out to all of my new followers. Thank you to everybody who has followed. I'm sorry I couldn't do my normal, like, hey, thanks for following in the middle of the space and whatnot like I normally would. But I see we got Will to follow. Shout out to Will. And shout out to Tor Hockey. And shout out to Kush. Thank you all for coming back. Thank you for being here. We're going to get this worked out. Like I said, we're doing this next week, obviously, because I need to do a little Black History space to recognize for the month that it is. All right? Black History Month, Black Power, as always. Indigenous Climate Action, Mobilize Web3, Climate Space has been a success. Thank you so much for all of this. I'm going to go sleep for about a day.